Hey guys, this is the Brothers Wisp number 41. It is February 18th, 2017. Today we've got Tomas Kernek out of Slovakia, middle of the night like always.
Hello, hello.
We've got Andrew Cox all the way from Austin, Texas. And then we've got Mike Hammett up in... Where do you actually live?
I think. About an hour west of Chicago.
All right. So I just tell people Chicago because I don't know where else. I mean, I don't know.
That's good enough.
Good enough. Good enough diploma, GED. All right. And I'm Greg Soul, and I'm down in College Station, Texas, actually, believe it or not. So not too far from Andrew these days. I had to move to get closer to him. That's what it was. Um, this one, there's not a whole lot on the notes. Mike's been silent. I guess he's finally found him something he needs to do that's more important than playing on Facebook all day. Um, but to kind of kick it off and get cooking, I always like putting Unimus up at the top. So, Thomas, the amazing Unimus backup tool, tell us about version 3. And as far as I know, you've got support for some more devices out. And then what else should we know about?
Did you just call him a tool?
Hey, man, he is what he is. He's not going to deny it.
Well, I'm now completely confused. What are we talking about?
Unimus 3 that just came out.
Yeah. Just a bunch of new devices. Telnet finally released. It's a huge, huge patch. We've been working on it for last 3 months, so tons of stuff there. Tons of good stuff.
All right, cool. Let's see, moving down the list. Man, I like this. Just keep it trucking. Siklu, we had asked
We'll be
about...
here 5 minutes today.
Let's hope. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten all day, so it's time. Siklu, we were talking about them a little while back. I think you and I, Thomas, I was saying, hey, I wonder if Siklu has anything out. And so, of course, Mike put up something that says they're doing 60 to 80 gigahertz gear. It didn't look like there's any real details yet, just kind of a sort of a marketing splash page. I don't know that there's anything additional to that. Do you have any additional information on it, Mike? You're
That
keen to share.
they had the wonderful. We're at the conference. Reach out to one of our people there to find out more. Well, I'm not in Barcelona or wherever it's at, so just tell me now. Uh,
Fair
they,
enough.
they, they haven't really done that yet.
All right. Well, I'm assuming by the next cast we'll probably have a little bit more information on that then. Let's see. There's a fella, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher his name, but Aaron Hausken. He created this little Raspberry Pi script that I think he hooked up some LEDs and tied it into his Dude. So I think the color coordination on Dude corresponds to the color on LEDs. So it's kind of a cool little visual indicator. I thought that was neat. It's one of the first, I don't know, one of the first, but we don't get a whole lot of folks that share stuff to our page. And so I just wanted to highlight that and say, hey, if you guys have anything interesting, cool, question, anything you've done that you want to kind of cross share on there, we're always open to that stuff. Let's see what else. I was talking to Mike earlier about SIAE. I'm not sure if that's a word, or am I supposed to pronounce that, or is that an acronym? But it's SIAE Microelettronica. Elettronica? Yeah, it's an Italian company, right? So I'm sure I'm supposed to be saying that like Mario and Luigi, but I'm just not going to be able to pull it off.
Or use your hands.
Hey, it's a microelectronica. There you go. Oh, I'm sorry,
And there
Lorenzo.
goes our Italian audience.
I apologize, Lorenzo. Mother.
We'll get Lorenzo on here one day.
He seems so confused by some of our colloquialisms, but I can't blame him. I mean, we're idiots the last time I saw him. These guys, they produce, so I met them at a conference, what was that, a couple days ago, early this week, and I said, hey, who do you guys use for radios? He goes, well, actually, we manufacture our own, and I felt like an idiot because I've never heard of them. Of course, Mike, for sure, has heard of them because he's actually bought some of their equipment. What I thought was interesting about it, not only did they manufacture their own gear, but Mike says it's actually pretty decent stuff, and I'll let him fill you in. But they also, here at least in North America, if you need to do a point-to-point shot, they'll actually engineer that link for you. They'll actually negotiate rights. If it's a licensed link, they'll buy the rights for you, and they'll come and provision the equipment, proof it, and then turnkey it over to you, which I thought was pretty neat, right? So if you're looking for some kind of a license point-to-point somewhere, these guys can do all the heavy lifting for you. And it didn't seem like their pricing was too terrible. What did you say about them, Mike? You like the gear?
Yeah, they're not very common. I think they only started coming around to the States maybe about 4 years ago or so. But they have what I believe to be the fastest licensed radio available. It's well, that's available in multiple bands. Obviously you've got some things that are available in, say, only 80 gig or things like that that'll do more.
All right. So when you say fastest, do you mean lowest latency or the most throughput?
Well, most throughput, because your lowest latency things, they're all going to be one-offs made for the finance industry that are, like, from what I understand, they like all the things that a WISP would want, like error checking and things like that to make sure that the packets actually made it correctly, all that sort of stuff. That all gets ripped out because they don't care. They want the lowest time. And they pay handsomely for a radio that's worse, from our perspective anyway. But anyway, yeah, it's so highest throughput because it can do 4096 QAM, which is way better than anything else. Although increasing QAMs have decreasing extra throughput, if that makes any sense. Like going from
each time you go up, you don't get double the throughput; you get less. Yeah.
Each doubling of the QAM is less and less additional.
Diminishing returns. That's the word.
But they so it's 4096 QAM. It can do 2 streams. Actually, if I remember correctly, it's not even just a horizontal and a vertical. It can do 2 of either polarity. Obviously, if you're doing the same polarity, you have to choose 2 different channels, but it can do all of that in up to, is it an 80 or maybe a 112? 112 doesn't do much for me because we don't have that available in the United States. But megahertz wide channel, so you can do like 2 or 3 gigs with just single radios on each side, and they have all kinds of sync. Was it IEEE 1588 for passing the sync clock through for timing applications? They'll do packet header compression. They'll do everything that most any other licensed radio manufacturer does, but they're about half the price of the equivalent. Well, half the worse Saragon or Cambium radio.
Nice. I see they're listing 6 gigahertz, 60 gigahertz. I know they were talking about 80 gigahertz. I'm sure that I remember asking them, they said they do 11 gigahertz as well. I think they'll pretty much do anything.
Yeah. The Alpha Plus 2 would well, for US bands, would do all of them: 6, 11, 18, 23. It would do the host of whatever licensed band your countries have. It probably supports it, because they're a big time licensed manufacturer. They're not not like Ubiquity and Mimosa, where they just have one trick ponies.
Right.
In the license space. I'll put that in.
So they've been developing these licensed radios for a long time.
Yeah, from what I understand, they're a lot more popular overseas. They've got some huge carrier contracts and all kinds of things like that.
Yeah, I was talking to one of their sales guys, David, and he was talking about their 80 gigahertz links. he was saying, yeah, I mean, their marketing says what, 2.5 gigs of throughput for what that's worth. I think he also said that, yeah, we do these things at 2.5, 3 miles. And I was asking about range fade because that seems like a pretty incredible distance for 80 gigahertz, unless I guess it's really big dishes or whatever. And he's like, yeah, it's just the modulation will adjust. So you're not going to get the full throughput, but it'll still get through. I think down here in Texas, or at least our part of the country of Texas, right, because it's a country unto its own, would probably be okay because we just don't get that much rainfall. And traditionally, when it does rain, it's not a torrential downpour. I think you were saying that would be more a problem for you, Mike.
Yeah. Well, I do understand that these seem to handle some rain a little better than you would expect, but like, I still wouldn't trust it for going that long. Like around here in Air Fiber 24, just the standard one, you don't put them more than 1.5 miles and expect it to stay up during the rain. I keep hearing stories of people doing them 6, 7, 8, 10 miles. Well, maybe not 10, but many more miles than we can here. It's like that has to drop, or at least it would here. It's not often that a 1.5 mile link drops, but still does.
Yeah, true story. Any other kids have any thoughts on it? No, silent. So something that popped in my head, and it was actually based off a conversation Thomas and I had the other day, is where do you find your new employees? I mean, how do you headhunt? Are there any particular things you guys ask, right? It seems like it's, no matter how much vetting you do and everything, it always seems like such a crapshoot when you're hiring a guy. 'Cause Thomas said that it's a small team of programmers working on Unimus, and even if he wanted to expand, it may not be the easiest thing, because he's out in Slovakia in sort of a smaller town. Is that right?
Yeah, very small town.
All right.
If I wanted to hire another programmer in this town, there's pretty much no chance.
All right. And how hard would it be to convince somebody to move over there?
Oh, extremely hard.
Just move up here to the middle of nowhere.
We've got lots of cows. It's great.
You have to stress the cost of living improvements.
Yeah.
It costs less to live there.
Well, I prefer smaller towns to big cities, honestly. Although there's some amount of things we can do here, and it doesn't take too long.
Big cities have benefits.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you see, I think the definition of a small town is different here and in the US. So, what's a small town for you?
Right now we're a population of, I don't know, like 100 and probably with the students and everything, probably like 120 to 150,000 people.
Is that a small town or?
Yeah, it's a pretty small town.
Okay. Right.
I mean, there's tiny towns too, right, of like 300 people, but I don't know. I don't count those.
So
in Australia,
I honestly think we have maybe only like 4 cities or 5 cities in Slovakia that are about 100,000.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like you've got about 20,000 in your town.
Yeah, 22,000 in my town. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty small. But how do you guys normally go about trying to find new people? I think the last time I hired a guy, I did like, it wasn't Dice, it was some online organization, and I got lucky. My last guy I picked up, there was an MSP of sorts in town that did like managed firewall services for people, and they got bought out, and the company was going to pot, and they were going to close the office here in our town. So all of those guys basically applied. Every single one of them applied for the network position that I was hiring for. So I had a lot of guys to pull from. I think barring that, I would have been in a pretty rough position, because it's not often you can find somebody in like a big city and convince them to kind of come to a smaller rural town like this. So I feel like I got lucky. But then on the hiring process, I feel like I'm terrible at interviewing people. I mean, I've seen where you can give people tests and things like that, right? But if you're hiring for a more or less junior admin position, they're not always going to know enough to really adequately complete a test. Like you can't necessarily sit them down in front of a router and say, all right, configure a BGP session with OSPF on the back end, and I mean they're not ready for that, right? I guess you're trying to more judge their capacity to learn and
Just make it
flexibility.
make it open. Make it an open test. You have Google. You have these. Work out how it's done. I'll give you an hour. I'll be back in an hour. I want to see what you can do.
Golly, I mean, how would let's liken that to something else. That would be like we would have to perform a minor surgery on a human being using Google. Do you think we could accomplish that? I don't know that that would go very well.
Yeah, it would be fine. That's why you get a test environment, or like a test dummy to work on,
A test. I mean, all right. Well, I mean, what do
or
you?
just
How
a
would
drunk
you?
friend. Like,
If you, because I know before I've seen Mike post up plenty of times, looking for somebody in the area. I don't know how much success you normally have. What do you guys usually
None.
do? Because I'm sure probably at least I would say 50% or better of the guys who listen to this cast are in this boat now or have been there. And, I think it's something everybody bumps up against. And none of us really are trained to hire people. I've seen that there are actual like course materials you can get on learning to hire people. That's how specialized it can be. And I know I'm terrible at it. I ended up getting a phenomenal guy, but hell, I feel like I just got lucky, you know? What have you guys
Yeah,
done? Do you have any
I've,
advice for people? Any tips or
well,
anything?
I've
I
pulled
will take
from
advice because I can't find anybody. That's why I keep seeing those posts looking for this because I can't
Yeah.
find anybody.
Yeah.
Metro Chicago, 10 million people can't find a sales guy.
Wow.
I've pulled from like resources, so I'd like reach out to friends and things like that. That's probably the first sort of go-to for me. But when hiring in a new area or somewhere we don't know the people, we had to hire two sales guys here over in the US for the Australian company I work for, Bright Wi-Fi, and we ended up going through like a recruiter. So they kind of vetted a lot of people for us and then sent through the ones they thought were good candidates. And then we would do the interviews with them and kind of work out if they were a good fit for our business, if they they had aptitude in the areas we were looking for. But even saying that, like these, we were looking for people in a sales role, so there was no detailed technical component to it. And I always worry when I'm hiring someone for a technical role. It's like my boss will go, well, who would you put in this role? I go, well, I know like two people, but they already have well-paying jobs. Here's this person in the US who's really good at networks and things, and I want to put this person on, but I don't know anyone else who's as good as that. Like, how are you supposed to find someone and know that person will work, especially if it's a critical role? So,
Yeah. And I think when you hire people too, you quickly get to know them, right? They're actual human beings, and so if you hire them in and they don't work out, you got to let that guy go, and that's not always an easy thing for people to do.
yeah.
So,
Not only that, but people have their own lives going on. You may find that someone you hire has a shelf life. They want to head off to Alaska in a year and a half with their partner, or they want to move to the UK, and that sort of thing happens. So you have to deal with it.
yeah, some guy that I work with, he was saying that.
Sometimes I know that.
Oh yeah, I was saying the guy I work with, Tony, was saying that the company he used to work for, Icon or Rico, like the copier people, that make printers and stuff. It's just a huge company, and so there were some folks inside that said they wouldn't even talk to a new sales guy for a year because they didn't know if they were going to make it or not. And when you hear something like that, it's like, well, I bet there is a lot of turnover because, they just get ignored as actual human beings and individuals, right? But I can understand that to a degree, right? So you don't want to get like attached to a person. But like my network guy, Lucas, I have no illusions that he's going to build himself up and at some point he's going to move on, right? But I think, some people could say, well, if that's the case, are you going to invest a lot of time and energy into this person knowing that they're going to leave? And I think, for me personally, I think you absolutely should, right? So when leave, they don't. It's not usually money. I feel like that they're leaving for. It's usually for they've plateaued where they are and they can't advance, right? So they need to go somewhere else so they can continue to expand. Well, I mean, I know there was a point in my life where money was a main
It depends on the
motivator.
person.
Well,
Yeah, it depends on the person. Some people want they always need that new challenge, something that's harder and like forces them to learn something new. Other people always want to be recognized. They want and the money is a form of that. You have to recognize good employees, and if not, they will get an offer from someone in a position to pay them more, and they'll go there eventually. Like it has to be a balance of all of those things. It has to be a good work environment, and like you said, one of the companies I worked for a few years ago even had a policy where they said if you left within, it was 12 months or something, if you having training paid for by the company, they had a rake back clause on that. You had to pay for it. So it's like how it encourages people to stay if they want to build themselves, and allows the company to fund that, but gives them a way out. And I don't know how I feel about that personally. It's if you're going to put stipulations on that sort of thing, it's like you don't trust your employees, and it's hard.
yeah. I don't know. I think you have to give people some kind of path for growth. Otherwise, they're going to stagnate and they're going to want to leave. And you have to still compensate them adequately for the work they're doing. Otherwise, they're going to want to leave, right? But I think too is just making an environment that people want to work in. That's a big part of why people stay, in a place. And in IT, I feel like everywhere I've ever been, it's very cyclical, right? There'll be slow times, but then there'll be torrential downpours, of work. When it rains, it floods, sort of thing, where you're covered up, and just trying to prevent burnout on people. It's sort of hard. And then also, you need your people to get educated. You need them to get up to a certain point. So how hard do you push them, right? You want to push them hard enough to keep them motivated, but not so hard that you're killing them. And I think it's a lot of professional growth. You're right. It's like that's all of these things. You don't necessarily get taught. You have to kind of ease into them, I think, which is difficult. Like if we want to learn to do OSPF, we have a manual we can go and read, and then you can sort of test that on some routers in a lab. You can't necessarily test on live humans. I mean, I guess you can. It's just I don't know how well it's going to work out.
I'm sure all know people who've done that before.
Well, I mean,
How does this work?
you sort of have to, I guess, at some point. But
Yeah.
I don't really have an easy button for hiring people. I thought maybe you guys would have some insights, because, well, it sounds like we're all in the same boat. We're all sort of looking for people, and I'm always kind of on the lookout for a good candidate. If I run across a guy, I can snatch him up, sort of thing. But I don't know like a good outlet. I know we're in a college town here, so trying to get new talent. One of the things I've kind of kicked around is do internships, so I'll pick you up for a semester or something like that, and with no expectation of hire at the end of it, right? So it's kind of a try before you buy. If they show a lot of promise, they're quick studies, they're really interested in the work, then you make them an offer at the end of it. Otherwise, it's, hey, I hope you appreciated your time. You've got some good padding for your resume, and good luck to you out there. That way you don't have to feel guilty about telling them, sorry. You don't have to technically fire them. You just say your internship has ended.
So here's another idea, and this is actually something we used to do at Access Plus. We were providing internet services to student accommodation. So what we would try and do is we get what we call on-site support representatives, and they were someone who was just picked from the student population. We picked them because they expressed an interest, they were technical, they were willing to talk with us and do testing and go out and help their peers. And we would give them free internet as part of that. Say, here you go, if you have to go out and do anything for us, if you have to check on anyone's computer, we'll give you a bit more. And quite a few of those people we ended up pulling in as actual staff. That's how at least 4 of the people that I worked with came on board. we said to them, hey, we've got a position opening. Are you interested in a job as a junior technician or doing support? And that was actually a really good source of workers for us, people who were already familiar with what we were doing, and most of them were doing IT degrees, the sort of people that would reach out to us. So I know that there's another company in Australia that did similar. They would actually pull some of their support representatives from their customer base. If you can convert a customer to an employee, like it's someone who's a fan of your system, a fan of your business, then why not? They can get on board. They can become a part of that team that they already appreciate and make it better.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of vendors. It's usually like a software vendor or something like that. They have a specific product they sell, and when they get a customer that does like a conversion inside, and I guess they work with them enough and they get familiar with the product, they'll end up just kind of stealing them over. I've seen that several times. So it's interesting.
For us, for example, the situation is kind of different because we don't have any colleges here, right? It's an extremely small town at the complete end of Slovakia. There is nothing after us, just Ukrainian borders. But basically for us in Slovakia, we have one website where if you want to find people for anything, it's just like a job search website that you go to, you post your stuff, and you hope. And usually if it's IT and you're in a small town like we are, you basically have no chance. But it's the website for job search has become such a well-known place everywhere in Slovakia that everybody just uses that. So at least there is an online system for that, but that just helps you spread the word out. But it still doesn't, of course, help you with the quality of employees, and specifically if you are in a small town or like us, it can be extremely hard.
For that sort of stuff, how do you feel about remote employees? So if it's someone that's doing software and programming, they're working in a development team and they have access to the internet, obviously, would you ever consider bringing people on who would talk with the group through Skype or Slack or something like that and could work elsewhere?
I think most people actually haven't tried fully working from home or remotely, and most people think they can do it, but I know from personal experience it's not for everybody, and I think a majority of people it just doesn't work, remote work. For some people, I'm sure it does, but I don't think it's a good long-term investment to let somebody completely work from home all of the time. It's just at least that's been my personal experience so far in multiple jobs with multiple people. And even with myself, I mean, I've been working on Unimus now for over a year, and it's starting to become too much sitting at one desk for work, for free time, and basically not leaving the house barely during the weekends. And of course, you always have that thing that you're sitting behind your computer and you have all the work available, and it's there. And so might as well do something, and then you end up working for just crazy amounts of time. And another thing is, especially in jobs that require heavy cooperation, as software development actually does. I mean, if somebody is working on a one-man project or something, it doesn't. But if you are working in a team, a software team, actually proper coordination and communication is extremely important. And it's just not the same doing it remotely. I'm not saying it cannot be done. It's just it has to be the right kind of a person that you allow this for, and also you have to actually approach the entire job and the process of everything differently.
Yeah, I think to your point too. I think in a team environment where so you do have a lot of junior guys. When I'm sitting in, say, the NOC at the data center, if one person asks me a question, I answer it loud enough for the whole room to hear, right? So it's one person's asking me this, but I'm educating the entire room all at once, right? So you learn a lot and you stay abreast of what's happening, immediately because you hear other people talking about it. If you're isolated, over here by yourself, you're just going to see emails and you're going to miss out on a lot of that stuff, I think.
Or they're yelling at.
All right, man. Well, unless you guys have anything else, I've reached the end of what I had to talk about today.
No, that's it. I think it'll
All right.
be good for people. And
Short and sweet. It was like a 25, 30-minute one.
anyone
All right, excellent, guys.
questions
Well,
how they hire people, who they pick. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's wrap it up. Thomas Kernack, if people want to find you and find out about Unimus and figure out what kind of product you use in your hair to get it so beautifully curly, how can they get a hold of you on the web?
Well, just Google me. I'm fairly easy to find. Facebook, LinkedIn, just YouTube, emails, whatever. I really am quite easy to find. So just Google for me, and you'll find me. And Unimus.net if you want to check us out.
There you
We'll be
go.
very happy.
Yeah, find him on Unimus. All right, Andrew Cox, if you want people to stalk you on the internet, how would you like them to go about that?
Stalk me through the window. Otherwise, admin at microtik-routeros.com.
Booyah. All right, Mr. Hammett, how would people get a hold of you if you were so inclined?
Well, you can just type my name, Mike Hammett, into Google, and like the first probably 20 pages are going to be me. So feel free to choose a method.
Yeah, Mike is very prolific on the internet.
For good or bad.
Yeah, I was leaving it. I was just gonna pause and see if anybody was gonna throw anything out there. It wasn't gonna be me. I don't want to be the negative guy all the time. It could be good stuff. He does a lot of fine art paintings of shoes. He's got a big shoe proclivity. I don't know where that comes from, but you can find a lot of his oils, some of his sketches. He does a lot of charcoal. It's really good stuff. You'd be surprised. He frames it for free. Pop by his
I
Etsy
am
store.
completely lost
Puts it
again.
up on Etsy, yeah.
All right. If you want to find me, you can find me at my originally named GregSoul.com. It's my blog where I occasionally, very rarely put out stuff. I actually did one. I 3D printed a little VFL thing, so I put that up. So you can grab the STLs and have fun with that. You stick it on your cell phone so that you can visually locate fiber using your celly, because I always have that with me and almost nothing else. What else? As always, find us on Facebook, The Brothers Wisp on Facebook. Was that facebook.com/The Brothers Wisp? A lot of good material. Most all of it is actually put up by Mike. He's very active on there, so if you say anything, he's going to respond immediately. So just be prepared. If you are old school and you want to hit us on email, it's contactus at TheBrothersWISP.com. And I will slowly answer those. I've been chastised once already for being too slow, so I'll try and be better about that. If you guys have any questions or comments, concerns about Mike's oddities and his art history, be sure to reach out. Anything else? Guys, nothing? All right, we're good.
Well,
All right.
good.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
See?
Catch us later.